The night of her graduation dinner was supposed to belong to Lena Moore. The restaurant was warm and bright, filled with relatives, old family friends, and classmates who had watched her struggle quietly for years. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed too loudly. A banner near the wall read "Congratulations, graduate." Lena sat straight in her chair, smoothing the fabric of her navy dress, trying to ignore the familiar tension crawling up her spine. Across the table, her parents leaned toward her in unison, their smiles fixed but hollow. "Lena," her father Robert said softly, the way he spoke when he wanted control without witnesses noticing. "We need to talk about something important." Her mother Diane nodded, folding her napkin with sharp precision. "This is a family matter," she added. Lena already knew what was coming. She felt it the way you feel thunder before the storm breaks. Robert slid a folder across the table. "Your grandfather's inheritance," he said. "You're settled now. You have a job. Your sister needs it more." Her younger sister Emily leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, a small satisfied smile on her lips. "I'm not signing anything," Lena said calmly. The air froze. Robert's jaw tightened. Without another word, he reached into his briefcase, pulled out Lena's diploma, flicked open a lighter and held the flame to the corner of the paper. "You don't deserve his money," he whispered as the paper curled into ash. Gasps echoed around the table. Lena didn't cry. She didn't scream. She smiled, stood up and walked away, because the real thing protecting her future wasn't something fire could touch. For most of her life, Lena had learned how to disappear at the table. Not because she lacked thoughts or ambition, but because silence kept her safe. In the Moore household, peace was earned by obedience and love was conditional. Emily, the younger daughter, fit perfectly into the picture Robert and Diane wanted to show the world. She was expressive, charming, always needing support and always getting it. Lena was different. She was quiet, observant, practical. The kind of child adults forgot was listening. At 11, Lena dragged a homemade robotics project across a school gym alone because her parents were busy taking Emily to an art showcase. At 15, she boarded an overnight bus to a science program by herself while her parents flew Emily to a fashion event. At 17, when Lena won a state scholarship, she searched the auditorium for her parents' faces and didn't find them. Only Grandpa Henry stood in the back row, hands folded, nodding proudly. "I see you," he told her later, pressing a warm hand on her shoulder. Henry taught Lena quiet strength. He showed her how to read contracts, how to ask questions before signing anything, how silence could be strategy instead of weakness. "Don't rush to explain yourself," he used to say. "People who care will listen." So Lena didn't fight back when her parents minimized her achievements. She told herself it didn't matter. But late at night, alone in her dorm room, she wondered what it would feel like just once to be chosen. Graduation night had felt like her final chance. Lena imagined her parents smiling honestly, maybe even hugging her. She imagined Emily teasing her playfully, not competitively. She imagined something that felt like family. Instead, every compliment Lena received came with tension. "So what's the salary really?" Robert asked, his tone sharp. "Is that job even stable?" Diane added. Emily talked loudly about future plans, studios, travel, projects, none of which had details, but all of which somehow involved their parents' money. Lena tried to stay calm. She sipped water. She nodded politely. She reminded herself this was just one night. Then dessert arrived. Robert cleared his throat. "Your grandfather trusted you," he said, sliding the folder forward. "But this isn't about favoritism. It's about fairness." "Fairness?" Lena asked quietly. Emily scoffed. "You weren't even close to Grandpa. Why would he leave you anything real?" That was the moment something inside Lena snapped, not with anger but with clarity. "I'm not signing," she repeated. Robert's face darkened. "Don't be difficult." "I'm not being difficult," Lena said. "I'm being honest." The lighter clicked open seconds later. As her diploma burned, Lena felt something unexpected: relief. The performance was finally over. The restaurant buzzed with whispers as ash drifted onto the white tablecloth. Someone reached for their phone. Emily's smile faltered. Diane watched closely, waiting for tears that never came. "This is what happens when you forget who supports you," Robert said coldly. Lena stood slowly. "Are you done?" Her calm startled him. Emily reached for Lena's arm. "Don't be dramatic. Don't touch me, Lena said, stepping back. Diane finally spoke. If you walk out now, you're dividing this family. Lena almost laughed. I'm not dividing anything, she replied. I'm just done pretending. She placed her napkin neatly on the table, picked up her purse and walked out. No one followed. Outside, cool night air wrapped around her like freedom. For the first time all evening she could breathe. She went to her Aunt Carol's apartment. The door was unlocked. Tea waited on the counter. No questions. No judgment. Lena lay on the couch, replaying the night not with rage but understanding. Their cruelty hadn't been sudden. It had been rehearsed. And still she hadn't broken. Because next week they would finally learn the truth. The next morning, Lena woke to sunlight and silence. Her phone lit up with messages. Emily, I'm repainting your old room. Hope that's okay. Robert, fix this. Sign the papers. Diane, your father didn't mean it. Let's be reasonable. Lena turned the phone off. She opened her laptop and wrote one email. It's time. The reply came quickly. Santa Monica office. They'll be notified. For the first time, Lena wasn't reacting. She was choosing. And when the lawyer's office doors opened the following week, the family who thought they owned her future would finally learn how wrong they were. The week before the meeting passed quietly, almost eerily so. Lena went to work each morning as if nothing had happened, reviewing code, fixing bugs, sitting in meetings where people valued what she said. That contrast stayed with her. At work, her voice mattered. At home, it never had. One evening, Aunt Carol poured them tea and spoke gently. Your grandfather planned carefully, she said. He knew who you were long before anyone else bothered to look. Lena nodded, fingers wrapped around the warm mug. He told me to stay calm, she replied. To let the truth speak when the time was right. Carol smiled sadly. Then you're doing exactly what he wanted. Meanwhile, Robert sent message after message, his tone swinging wildly between threats and false concern. You're embarrassing us, one text read. This can still be fixed, another followed. Emily posted pictures online, shopping bags, paint samples, studio sketches, acting as if the inheritance already belonged to her. Lena watched it all from a distance, unmoved. They thought silence meant surrender. They had no idea it meant preparation. The morning of the meeting arrived clear and bright, the kind of day that felt almost cruel in its beauty. Lena parked outside the law office in Santa Monica and sat in her car for a moment, breathing deeply. Her hands were steady. Her heart was calm. Inside, Mr. Harris, her grandfather's lawyer, greeted her with a nod. They'll be here shortly, he said. I'm ready, Lena replied. When the door opened, Robert walked in first, stiff and angry. Diane followed, lips pressed tight. Emily came last, sunglasses still on her head, phone in hand. Emily laughed when she saw Lena. Wow, you really think this is going to change anything? Lena didn't answer. They sat across from her, a long table between them like a boundary that could no longer be crossed. Mr. Harris began reading the will slowly, clearly, line by line. The full estate, he said, including all properties, investments and company shares, is to be transferred solely to Lena Moore. Diane gasped. Emily slammed her hand on the table. That's impossible. Robert leaned forward. He promised me. Mr. Harris looked up calmly. No, sir. He didn't. Emily's face flushed red. I already paid deposits, she snapped. You can't just. It's not yours, Lena said quietly. Robert shook his head. You'll destroy everything. You don't even know how to run a company. I've been running parts of it quietly for years, Lena replied. Diane stared at her. What are you talking about? I was the one reviewing contracts with Grandpa. I was the one fixing problems you didn't even notice, Lena said. Mr. Harris clicked a remote. There's something else. The screen lit up. Grandpa Henry appeared, seated in his study. If you're watching this, he said gently, it means Lena kept her word. Emily whispered, no. I watched you overlook her, Henry continued. I watched her grow strong without applause. Strength like that deserves trust. The video ended. Silence filled the room like pressure building in a sealed space. This isn't revenge, Lena said softly. It's justice. Robert's confidence collapsed. You burned your bridges, he said weakly. You burned my diploma, Lena replied. You didn't burn my future. Diane cried quietly. Emily stared at the table, shaking her head. Lena gathered the documents and stood. No speeches. No triumph. Just certainty. Outside, the sun felt warm instead of harsh. For the first time, Lena wasn't trying to prove anything. She was free. 3 months later, Lena stood on her apartment balcony in San Jose, watching the city lights flicker. Her life was quieter now, cleaner. She led with fairness at work. She slept without tension. Her family never called again. And for the first time in her life, she didn't miss them. Grandpa had been right. Strength didn't need noise. It only needed truth. In the weeks that followed, Lena noticed how silence changed shape when it was no longer forced on her. It wasn't heavy anymore. It felt spacious. At work, people stopped interrupting her mid-sentence. When she spoke, the room listened. During one meeting, a senior manager leaned back and said, "You see problems before they happen." Lena smiled faintly. "I've had a lot of practice." Afterward, she sat alone at her desk, staring at the city skyline through the glass. For years, she'd been trained to stay invisible. Now visibility felt strange, almost dangerous, but she refused to shrink again. Emily tried one last time. She showed up unannounced at Lena's apartment building, designer bag on her shoulder, voice already raised. "You think you won," Emily snapped. "You think Grandpa loved you more?" Lena stayed calm. "This isn't about love." Emily scoffed. "Then what is it?" "It's about trust," Lena said. "Something you were never taught to earn." Emily stared at her, stunned, then laughed bitterly. "You've changed." "No," Lena replied softly. "I just stopped pretending." That night, Lena visited Grandpa Henry's old workshop. Dust clung to the shelves. Tools lay exactly where he'd left them. She ran her fingers over the workbench and whispered, "Thank you." In the quiet, she remembered his voice. "Let them underestimate you. Keeps them careless." For the first time, she understood what he meant, not as advice but as protection. Robert sent one final letter. Not an apology. Not regret. Just blame. "You've destroyed this family," he wrote. Lena folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer she never opened again. Families didn't destroy themselves overnight. They eroded slowly, through favoritism, control, and silence. She had simply stopped participating. At work, Lena was promoted quietly. No announcement. No applause. Just responsibility. A junior engineer approached her one afternoon. "I didn't think someone like me could belong here," he admitted. Lena looked at him carefully. "You belong if you do the work," she said. It was the first time she realized she was building something better, not just a career but a culture. Diane tried calling months later. Lena let it go to voicemail. "I don't understand where we went wrong," Diane said shakily. Lena listened once, then deleted the message. Understanding without accountability changed nothing. Some nights, memories crept in: the restaurant, the flame, the silence. But they no longer hurt. They reminded her of the moment everything changed. Pain had turned into clarity. And clarity had turned into peace. Lena hosted her first dinner in her own apartment. Friends laughed. Food burned slightly. Nobody judged. She realized then that family could be chosen. And love could exist without fear. At the end of the night, Lena stood alone on her balcony again. The city hummed below. She whispered to herself, "I don't need permission anymore." The words felt solid. True. Somewhere far away, her parents still believed she had been ungrateful. But Lena knew better. She hadn't taken anything that wasn't already hers. She had simply stopped giving herself away. Time didn't rush Lena forward. It moved gently, like it finally respected her pace. Weeks turned into months, and each one loosened another knot she hadn't known she was carrying. She no longer flinched when her phone buzzed. No longer rehearsed explanations in her head. The world felt quieter in the best way. One afternoon, Aunt Carol visited her apartment and looked around slowly. "You look lighter," she said. "I feel lighter," Lena replied. Carol nodded. "That's what freedom does. It doesn't shout. It settles." At work, Lena was asked to lead a long-stalled project. The team gathered around the table, uncertain. "So," one engineer asked, "how do you want to run this?" Lena thought for a moment. "With honesty," she said. "If something's broken, we fix it. If someone needs help, we give it." There were no dramatic speeches. No power moves. Just clarity. And slowly the project began to move. Emily's name surfaced once more through a mutual cousin. She's struggling, the cousin said carefully. Lena nodded. I hope she figures it out. No bitterness. No satisfaction. Just distance. For the first time, Lena understood that forgiveness didn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it simply meant letting go. Late one evening, Lena found herself rereading Grandpa Henry's old notes. Scribbled ideas. Half-finished plans. Quiet brilliance. You trusted me, she whispered. The weight of that trust no longer scared her. It grounded her. Robert never reached out again. Diane sent one holiday card and signed. Lena placed it in a drawer and went on with her day. She no longer needed closure from people who had refused to see her. At a company event, someone asked Lena about her family background. It's complicated, she said simply. They nodded and moved on. For once her past didn't define the room. One night, standing on her balcony, Lena realized she no longer replayed conversations in her head. The voices that once criticized her had gone quiet. In their place was her own. She began mentoring younger employees, especially those who spoke softly or hesitated before answering. You don't have to be loud to be right, she told one of them. They smiled relieved. Lena hosted another dinner. This time laughter came easily. No tension. No tests. As she washed dishes afterward, she caught her reflection in the window and smiled. She looked like someone who belonged to herself. Years earlier, her family had believed control was love. Lena had learned something different. Love was choice. And she had finally chosen herself. The last time Lena heard her father's voice was by accident. She was walking past a cafe near her office when she heard a familiar laugh behind her. Robert stood near the counter, older somehow, smaller than she remembered. He didn't see her. For a moment Lena stopped. Not out of longing but curiosity. Do I feel anything? He wondered. He didn't. And that surprised her more than anger ever had. That night Lena called Aunt Carol. I saw him today, Lena said quietly. Carol paused. And I kept walking. Carol smiled through the phone. That's how I know you're free. Emily resurfaced one final time through a message sent months later. I didn't think it would end like this, it read. Lena stared at the words, then typed back only one sentence. Neither did Grandpa, but he planned anyway. She didn't block Emily. She didn't argue. She simply didn't reply again. On the anniversary of Grandpa Henry's passing, Lena visited the old backyard where they used to sit together. The grass was freshly cut. The air smelled like pine. You were right, she whispered. Silence isn't weakness. The wind moved through the trees as if answering. At work, Lena was officially named director. During the announcement, someone asked how she stayed so calm under pressure. She smiled. I learned early that chaos doesn't deserve my energy. The room laughed softly, unaware how deep that truth ran. Lena never rebuilt the relationship with her parents. Not out of punishment, but because peace didn't require reopening old wounds. Some endings didn't need forgiveness to be complete. They just needed acceptance. One evening, as rain tapped gently against her windows, Lena framed a single document and hung it on her wall. Not her diploma. Grandpa Henry's handwritten note. Strength should be trusted, not controlled. Standing back, Lena realized how far she'd come. From a girl who learned to shrink at dinner tables to a woman who no longer needed permission to exist. Her life wasn't loud. But it was hers. Sometimes people mistook her calm for coldness. She didn't correct them. Those who mattered understood the difference between silence born from fear and silence chosen from strength. On her balcony, city lights glowing below, Lena rested her hands on the railing and breathed deeply. Her family had tried to burn her future. They failed because her worth was never made of paper. It was built from truth, patience, and the courage to walk away. Moral lesson. When people try to control you, it's not love, it's fear. True strength is choosing yourself quietly even when no one applauds. Thanks you for watching, and please remember to tell us where you are watching from today. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more of this.